Alright, hi, hello. This is a fairy tale that I wrote called Snapdragons. I wrote it back in 2021. And yeah, so I'm just gonna read that. And this is like I write a lot of fairy tales, but this one's like one of my all-time favorites. Like, it's probably the one that I've like painted the most scenes from. So yeah. Right now, in this very beautiful and most wondrous moment, there is a path that is overgrown with sun-kissed bushes blooming with sweet, ripened blackberries. If a pedestrian dares to indulge themselves in picking a berry and plopping it ever so delicately into their welcoming mouth, their tongue will surely be stained with purple royalty, and a taste so powerful it might be easy to forget that they only happen to exist in one location. Recently, I too found myself amongst the blackberry bushes on a path tucked between the hills of Santa Monica, California. Obviously, I initially presumed that I was only in one location, but as my tongue became increasingly stained with purple royalty, I found myself to be in at least two. Some may say that these blackberries contain psychoactive chemicals, but what if they didn't? As I continued changing the color of my mouth, strolling along this familiar path, I came across a not-so-familiar field of snapdragons. Standing at the shore of this vast and colorful ocean, and only when I held my breath to stay silently still as not to pervert my ability to trust my ears, I swear I could hear the breeze carrying soft, distant melodies. My father used to go on walks often, and he would always bring me back a disheveled bouquet or bushel of hand-picked snapdragons. He would say, "Jenna, my dear, these snapdragons have special powers. You see, the more you give, the more you become. The more that you will find that you're not all that different from that which you believe is up above." I never thought to question where he found them, because I was much more focused on how to activate those intriguing superpowers. I decided that it was imperative that I collect some bunches of flowers for those that I love. So I ran in and I began wading through the vibrant sea of dragons. I hummed along to the distant jazz-like tunes I heard and decided that it was most likely coming from an orchestra of very small saxophones. I scoured the floors of the field to spot as many fallen stems of flowers as I could, careful not to cause destruction to this little realm, when I slowly began to realize a change in my environment. It seemed to me that the stalks of snapdragons had been getting taller and the petals had been getting bigger, even until I stumbled upon a blossomed bud almost as big as me. Behind this bud, I found that there certainly were snapdragons up to twice my size awaiting my discovery. I couldn't believe this magnificent anomaly of nature was just so well hidden, even in my own hometown. The gentle breeze swayed the giant flowers and their pollen subsequently drifted through the air. Except with one particular flower. This snapdragon was peculiar in that the wind carried no pollen from it as it swayed, rather what appeared to be musical notes, and even the saxophones began to sound not so tiny anymore. I never did believe that it was curiosity that killed the cat. It was more likely than that to the people that were scared of the cat's curiosity. And so I peered my head inside this flower. And to my dismay, all I could see was the sunshine leaking through its petals, highlighting its veins and casting a filter-colored rose upon my nose. I untied my dirty old Converse as if I couldn't yank them off fast enough, and I stepped inside very light-footedly, as not to puncture the snapdragon's veins or velvet skin. I glided as gracefully as I could manage across the delicate velvet floor, and I found that my movements were harmonizing to the melody of the saxophones. As I found myself prancing through this ever-expanding tunnel of petal walls, a smell reminiscent of warm apple pie made its way into my nostrils and entwined itself within the very strands of my hazelnut locks of hair. Ahead of me, I could see a golden light from which the gilded music notes were emerging from. I grabbed one G minor and felt consumed with the desire to eat it, and I did so without a second thought. Quite frankly, it had a similar, soft yet chalky texture and mushy consistency as a banana, but it tasted just like blue raspberry cotton candy and melted upon contact with my royal purple tongue just the same. After dissolving, I belted out the most beautiful burp in a perfect G minor, so beautifully that I don't even know that it would be considered a burp. But a burp is the only sound I've ever made, thus aware of, that might happen after eating. Well, maybe also the gasping and coughing that comes with choking, but I certainly wasn't choking this time. I began consuming all the notes that I could catch coming my way and delighted in the soundtrack that my burps were stringing together for this very peculiar journey I had found myself on this Thursday afternoon. I've always relished in the excitement of Thursdays because Thursdays are just one day away from Friday, which is only one day away from Saturday, a day free from societal constructed burdens placed upon my loved ones, whom are alluded to believe in said constructs, which contain said burdens, including said illusions that must be realized Oh? Oh, God, what happened? The fairy tale went away. Oh, I found it. Brief interruption by my mother calling. But it's comedic timing, is it not? Okay. Whom are alluded to believe in said constructs, which contain said burdens, including said illusions, that must be realized to continue to live within said society that my said loved ones have chosen to exist within. Suddenly, I found myself inside the golden light that I thought was much further away. I must have walked right into it while lost in my musings of my admiration for Thursdays. Mom, I'm busy right now. I'm reading something. I told you I was going to...
Okay, I was just...
I'm in the middle of something. As I tried to grasp what was happening around me, I realized that I must be inside of what the only reasonable conclusion I could possibly conclude, what seemed to be an alternate dimension, where air was laced with gold so thick that it was all that existed. I was inhaling pure gold to the depths of my diaphragm, with each breath and exhaling purifying songs so comforting that they melted my body into the gold, until my every atom was coated in gold, oozing hypnotic frequencies and completely dissolving into a warm ecstasy. I was no different than this gold light. I was pure golden air and song. I didn't know how long I was in this dimension, but I emerged from it exactly as I had entered, with only two differences. First, my every molecule was forever embedded with gold, and secondly, my vocal cords were encased with that same gold, providing me with a singing voice that flowed and dripped like fresh honey from the comb, which sounds just as sweet as the words tasted escaping my lips. I was a bit discombobulated, but luckily I was still in a field of snapdragons. One thing that struck me as odd, though, was my increasing awareness that petals were raining down from the skies above me. Burnt orange, starburst pink, ruby red, stoplight yellow, and pure violet puffs of confetti were slowly drifting into piles on the floor, much like leaves during the transition to winter from autumn. Without a moment wasted, I got a running start and I jumped into the massive pile of petals. I felt like I was getting a glimpse into the life of a singular sprinkle, one from the bottles in my cabinets that only gets brought out while baking in preparation for a celebration. I guess I wasn't the only person that dreamt of experiencing the world as one of my decorative sprinkles, because my reality was once again suddenly shifted when the weight of another knocked all the golden wind I had left lingering right out of my freaking lungs. The flowers were started by two loud noises that day. First, a melodically gilded groan of pain similar to the graceful sound of a swan laying her first golden egg. And then second, a roaring burst of laughter sprouted from the perpetrator who caused the first loud noise. The unidentified cackling compilation of matter rolled off of my body, face down into the petals, which luckily put an end to my suffering and allowed me to compose myself. That was chapter 1.